Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Rainer and this is Rainierbooks. This is a crazy video because yesterday I filmed actually the rest of the video, the parts that you're going to see after you see this here. But then I realized I had no beginning on it because somehow the camera didn't run and I was talking and nothing happened. So I have to refilm this beginning. And this is about a TBR. This is about my books that I'm going to read after the 3 reads that I'm doing currently. So I think they will take about 10 or 12 days from now. And then I should be ready for new books in my life and in my apartment and in my vicinity. And so I'm talking about the books that I'm going to read next. Starting in the middle of June and probably until the end of July. They are in total, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Totally, I'm talking about 8 books here. And this list might change because I have some orders from the library pending and I don't know when they will sort of text me and tell me you have to pick up or you can pick up this book right now at the library. You never know. So let's get started. And I thought that I'm going to read to you the first paragraph of each of the books that I'm going to read. And there's only one book that I have to refilm, and then the rest comes from yesterday. And the book that I didn't have on film for some reason was, the first paragraph. The first paragraph. It starts with a quote from the Bible, actually, as a motto. We should have known the end was near. How could we not have known? When the sky began to pour acid and the rivers began to turn green, we should have known our land would soon be dead. Then again, how could we have known when they didn't want us to know? When we began to wobble and stagger, tumbling and snapping like feeble little branches, they told us it would soon be over, that we would all be well in no time. They asked us to come to village meetings to talk about it. They told us we had to trust them. We should have spat in their faces, heaped upon them names most befitting, liars, savages, unscrupulous, evil. We should have cursed their mothers and their grandmothers, flung pejoratives upon their fathers, prayed for unspeakable calamities to befall their children. We hated them and we hated their meetings, but we attended all of them. Every 8 weeks we went to the village square to listen to them. We were dying, we were helpless, we were afraid. Those meetings were our only chance at salvation. That is the beginning of the novel How Beautiful We Were by Imbolo Mbue. And this novel is about, as probably already clear in the first and the second paragraph that I read from this novel, it's about poisonous acid that has destroyed the soil and the water of people's habitat, where people are living in an African country, in an African region that is not existing, I think. It's fictitious, but Imbolo Mbue, she's hailing from Cameroon, yes. She's a native of Limbe in Cameroon. She lives in New York, and it might be Cameroon, it might be some other African state where a Western company, I think an American company, is exploiting the resources of the earth, of the soil, and poisoning the ground and poisoning the environment for the people living there. And it's about the fight, especially about the women who are trying to stand up against their politicians, who are corrupt and cooperating with the company, and about the fight against the American company. This is Imbolo Mbue's book, How Beautiful We Were. It's her second book after her American novel, Behold the Dreamers. That's it. And now we continue with what I filmed yesterday. We were the unwanted, the unneeded, and the unseen, invisible to all but ourselves. Less than nothing, we also saw nothing as we crouched blindly in the unlit belly of our ark, 150 of us sweating in a space not meant for us mammals, but for the fish of the sea. With the waves driving us from side to side, we spoke in our native tongues. For some this meant prayer, for others curses. When a change in the motion of the waves shuttled our vessel more forcefully, one of the few sailors among us whispered, "We're on the ocean now." After hours winding through river, estuary and canal, we had departed our motherland. That's the first paragraph of the novel The Committed, published by Grove Press in New York in 2021 by the Vietnamese-American author Viet Nguyen. I haven't read his first novel, The Sympathizer, which apparently is sort of like the first novel about this character that we meet again in The Committed. This is in Paris in the 1980s, Vietnamese immigrants, refugees coming from Vietnam and living in Paris in the 1980s. I love Paris, and I'm very interested in immigration stories. So Viet Nguyen is a person that is always mentioned in recent when you look at different sites and different newspapers, as well as one of the great writers in America right now. So I want to give The Committed a chance. The rest of the 5 books I own, so I can push them away and can postpone them, but I'm determined to try to read them over the course of the next week, beginning like in 2 weeks. Third one is called Familjen, and it's by Johanna Bäckström Lerneby, and this is a non-fiction book about a family, you could say a clan of people who are more or less governing white parts of Gothenburg, or Göteborg, the second largest Swedish town. Should I read this in Swedish, the first paragraph? I do it, okay? And I translate a little bit. But now you gotta listen to Swedish by a German and a Swedish citizen. I became a Swedish citizen, folks, last week. Now I'm Swedish and German. Thank you. So this is the first paragraph. Ulf Melander vittnade under ed och tog ifrån tårna när åklagaren bad honom att berätta om familjen. Jag har följt den här familjen Alazim under ganska lång tid. Familjen består idag av ungefär 120 individer. De flesta bor i Angered. De har förekommit i väldigt mycket brottslig verksamhet under åren. De har påverkat lokalsamhället uppe i Angered ganska negativt under lång tid. När jag tittar på den här familjen så är ungefär 60 av de 120 individerna över 15 år. Och ett 40-tal av dem är män och över 30 av dem förekommer i polisens register. Och de brott som Alazim är kända för är mord, utpressning, grov kvinnofridskränkning, misshandel, olaga hot, narkotikabrott och vapenbrott. How much did you understand? So this is a guy called Ulf Melander who is witnessing in a trial, and there's a quote here in the first paragraph of this book. I have followed this family, Alazim, during a long time. The family consists today of about 120 individuals. Most of them live in Angered, which is a part of Gothenburg. They have been named in a lot of crimes over the years. They have influenced the local community up in Angered very negative during a long period of time. When I look at this family, so I would say that 60 of these 125 people are over 15 years old. And 40 of these are men, and over 30 of them are in the police records. And the crimes that Alazim is known for are murder, blackmailing, women's rights, the violation of women's rights, assault, threatening, drug offenses, and illegal weapon possession. So this is about a family in Gothenburg this book is called The Familjen. We're going to the Caribathon. I'm not taking part in the Caribathon. There are other people out there who know so much more about Caribbean literature. But I have a certain interest in Caribbean literature, and I give you the first paragraph of the novel that is on my TBR for the next couple of weeks. Also interesting, 4 of the books that I'm going to read and on my TBR have a prologue. Not every book has a prologue, right? but here are quite many prologues. Prologue, September 12, 1979. Lala comes home and Wilma is waiting, having returned early from visiting Carson at the hospital. Wilma is still dressed in her going-out clothes, one of the outfits she prefers to be seen in by strangers. A steam-pleated lilac skirt that falls just below her knees, a pale aquamarine silk blouse tucked into the waist with a broad purple belt, and a navy plush hat that once belonged to her mother. When Lala walks through the door, Wilma is standing on the stone floor of the kitchen, arms akimbo, eyes wide with relief. "Where you was, Stella? It's almost 8:30. That is the beginning of the novel How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House by Cherie Jones, which is a debut novel by an author from Barbados, but living in Vermont in the United States today. It's her first novel, and I'm very interested to read this story from the Caribbean. I'm not taking part in the Caribathon because I have so many other things to do, so many other projects, but I'm always interested. I'm following the Caribathon, and I'm picking up some of your advice, some of your tips of all of you people who know a lot about Caribbean literature. And that's one of the beautiful things on BookTube, actually, that there's so many people out there who have very special knowledge. The next one is, the next book actually is the winner of, pretty newly named winner of the Jolak Prize. If you don't know the Jolak Prize, I think MD Books has done videos about the Jolak Prize, shortlist, and also I think Paula from Draw Her Book has talked about the Jolak Prize a lot this year. I'm trying to find their videos. I'm going to link them down below. The Jolak Prize is a prize for writers of color in the UK, British or British resident BAME writers, BME writers. It's only £1,000 for the sole winner, but it was established in 2016. And this year the prize went to a novel that is on my TBR and has a beautiful cover, but I'm going to show you the cover first later, because now you have to listen to the first paragraph of Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi's book, The First Woman. Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi, I'm sorry. Nateta Bulger, Uganda, May 1975. Until that night, Kirabo had not cared about her. She was curious on occasion. Where is she? What does she look like? How does it feel to have a mother? That sort of thing. But whenever she asked about her and family said no one knows about her, in that never-mind way of large families, she dropped it. After all, she was with family and she was loved. But then recently her second self, the one who did mad things, had started to fly out of her body, and she had linked the two. On this occasion, when she asked about her mother, and family fobbed her off again with, "Don't think about her, think about your grandparents and your father," something tore. It must have been the new suspicion. Maybe she does not want me because I am that cut like razors. Beginning in 1975, a young girl who has to discover being a woman in a family, a community and a country determined to silence her will take all the courage she has. Growing up in Uganda, in a country that has been torn and tormented by the incredible, horrible dictatorship of Idi Amin in the 1970s. A sweeping tale of longing and rebellion, at once epic and deeply personal, steeped in an intoxicating mix of ancient Ugandan folklore and modern feminism that will linger in the memory long after the final page. It sounds beautiful, right? And this is published by One World. It's Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi and The First Woman. On the upper floors of the kingdom, as the first winds of the monsoon picked up, the rain swept in just before first light. The cannons of a storm sounded in the distance. In Sarah's apartment, where she kept the tall sliding windows open, she felt the gusts even in her sleep, the geckos hunting on her walls scattering, moving toward the ceiling in its deeper shadow. She dreamed that she was swimming in an indoor pool back in New York, at the old WYCA near 53rd Street, alone and chilled until a siren wailed in the distance and the pool disintegrated. Her eyes opened, the equator returned, and the sweat on her back failed to dry. She panicked for a moment and felt for the edge of her mattress to situate herself. What a day was it? Coil birds called out across the city, whooping laments, and at once she remembered the waste lots of jungle below her windows, with their listing flame trees alongside the ruined tobacco warehouses that had stood there since the Japanese occupation. A faint hum came from the stormy Sansep Canal nearby, its black water churning with dawn commuter boats. She was alone among the flies, and the moon was still high above the dirty white skyscrapers of Bangkok. That is Lawrence Osborne's The Glass Kingdom, that I think was published already in 2020. Yes, it was by Penguin Random House in the UK. And I bought it because I think it's interesting. Osborne is a writer who has written very beautiful stuff. The last book by Osborne that I read, actually listened to, was an audiobook where he picked up the old character of Philip Marlowe by Raymond Chandler, writing about Philip Marlowe in his, I think in his late 60s, on The Last Case. That was a very interesting and good book. And so when I read that Osborne has written a book about a woman and a sort of expat community in Thailand, I wasn't only thinking of The Serpent, which is a great Netflix series that you should actually watch. I was thinking that should be and could be very interesting. It's about poker nights, the simmering heat of Bangkok, where I've never been. There's a half Thai talented stranger determined to bring the quiet American out of her shell, and that's Sarah. And she's drawn into the orbit of the kingdom's glamorous expat women. Expat society, political turmoil, The Glass Kingdom. Sounds interesting to me, and it's one of the novels that I want to pick up this summer over the course of the next week. And now the last one. Least but not last, of course. Last but not least. It's dedicated to Sheila. Two beautiful women sat talking and sipping chilled white wine in a garden high on a hillside overlooking the Adriatic. Behind them stretched the jagged monochrome mountains of the Dinarides, the peaks so pale as to appear snow-capped. Below, the sea stretched out before them, greenish water in the shallows close to shore, darkening to deep blue further out. The water was dotted with yachts and small islands, and the southern tip of the Istrian Peninsula was visible to the north. At the bottom of the hill lay the village with its narrow, higgledy-piggledy streets and red pentile roofs. A small beach hugged the curve of the bay where the waves broke in white foam against the yellow sand. Instead of a town square, there was a marina surrounded by cafes where the locals and people who came shopping from the outlying islands moored their small boats. That's how we get into Peter Robinson's novel Many Rivers to Cross, about Inspector Alan Banks. Skinny young boys found dead. It's a mystery novel. I have read so many books by Peter Robinson, and I have to read this one pretty quick, actually. So I may pick it up together with one or two of the other books that I mentioned after I finish the three that I'm doing right now, because there is already a new book ordered at the library by Robinson that's called Not Dark Yet, another Alan Banks mystery. So I have to read this one in order to be capable of reading the current mystery, Not Dark Yet, by Peter Robinson, who's a great British-Canadian crime writer. So these are the 7 books that I'm going to read, like beginning on June 12th and probably until the end of July. And even in July, you know that, you have heard that if you're a member of the Post-Soviet Book Club, if you're not a member, you should become a member of the Post-Soviet Book Club, because it's great. We're doing a great read. Sergei Lebedev's book, Untraceable, it's just fine reading. And we have learned so much already, I think. I read an interview by in The Guardian, with the Russian author Sergei Lebedev about the book Untraceable, where Lebedev said the new evil is rooted in the old evil in Russia. And that is very, very convincingly shown in a very good psychologic portrait of two people, of Kalitin and Sherzhniev, in the novel Untraceable. We will speak about that when we finish the book, but it's great stuff, I think, and it has a lot of reminiscence to the late John le Carré. A Russian le Carré is born in Sergei Lebedev. And I tell you that because the eighth book that I want to read, not until the end of July, but maybe until the middle of August, is it's Oksana Zabuzhko's Museum of Abandoned Secrets, which is on my TBR for July, and for the Post-Soviet Book Club, which you actually should think about joining, because we're exploring a large part of the world that the whole world outside the Soviet Union once has been scared of. And we are sort of exploring what did the history of that country, with this very diverse countries and the histories, what have they done to the human being? What became out of the Homo Sovieticus afterwards in the last 30 years? And we're reading a great book right now, and I think that even Oksana Zabuzhko's book, which covers 3 generations of women in the Ukraine, is a brilliant book to show us some of the repercussions of the Soviet Union in the post-Soviet literature. So welcome to join that. These were the books, the TBR for June and probably even for July, because I'm modest. I don't know how many of them I will be able to finish, and maybe there will be a few changes, 1 or 2 changes to that list. So thanks very much for watching this video. If you want to join me, if you want to read one of these books together with me in a buddy read, you're always welcome to let me know. And I hope that you have a great day wherever you are. You should mask up when you go outside and inside, and be careful. The pandemic is still around, and it won't leave us so soon. We will get safer in our rich countries where we are living, Germany, Sweden, US, Canada, Belgium, Holland, whatever. But think of our friends in countries where there's a huge surge. I heard about Peru, I heard about Chile, and we're still looking to India with great concern. Thanks very much for this solidarity with all the people, and we are one planet. We can only win against this globally. Bye-bye.